And I'll turn it over now to Clark Cooney, who is in charge of our after show. So Clark, the party is yours.
Please hold. Please hold. We have to mute some stuff. All right. Time to wake up.
We're also going to make you host here.
Oh, okay. I'm going to host.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we still recording, you guys?
Yeah, we'll keep that going for 30 minutes, let's say.
Well,
however
it won't
you
be
feel.
30 minutes, but maybe about quarter two. All right. How's everybody tonight? Let's see who's out there. Hi, Brian. Good presentation.
Art. Thank you.
Paul was waving at me. Don't talk to him.
Also, we have it. Also, we have it set for anybody to share.
So, okay, thank you. And Ted, what's for dinner?
Roast beef.
Oh, see, we got an answer today.
Yeah. I saw it on the counter. Yeah.
All right, that's good.
I have a question. Has
Go ahead,
anybody
caller.
found it on you? Long time listener, first time. I find it a little disheartening, but even more unusual that almost all of the hobby is moving towards ready to run cars. And I know that, there's been talk about the lack of people desired to model things, but building a car is in many ways so easy. And it seems to me that if they had it at a price point, because the ready to run stuff, $40, $50, $60 sometimes, that I would think that the kits would sell as many, but apparently they don't.
Well,
I
I
don't
think
they do,
no.
because I've built a couple just because I'd never had before. I picked up some Taylor kits, some Junico kits type thing, because they're in my era and whatever. And I built them and I've enjoyed them. But when I picked them up from the people who I've picked them up from, they obviously don't sell that many.
They said, now, this isn't put together. You're going to have to do it.
Yeah, well, I think one guy said something like that, but it's an enjoyable prospect I've found, but it is something that I don't see that a lot of people do it, or they're too afraid to do it. Now, some of the ones with some of the detailing and that, it's like, yeah, it's not into my kind of realm or where I want to be doing it necessarily, but to learn it is always a good thing. That's why I did it, is I wanted to kind of learn and broaden the perspective of the hobby for myself. So
I think it's the generation of instant gratification grown into the hobby, and they want that instant gratification. They'd rather spend the money than spend the time.
I don't know if I agree with that always, though, because it depends on what your interest is, because my interest is model building. So I've never bought a structure assembled. Now, yes, I buy cars and locomotives. Now, locomotive is not something that I think I would ever try, but I buy the cars because there's not readily available a lot of choices for what I want to model.
And I think
to completely scratch build one of those, that's getting a little beyond me right now, but doesn't mean that down the road it wouldn't be something I would not attempt type thing. But like there's so many aspects, like for people coming into the hobby, there's so many aspects of what you want to do or get exposed to that you kind of pick and choose.
Well, I almost wonder if it's kind of not market driven, but manufacturer driven.
Yeah,
I still have a lot of unbuilt kits in my basement, and probably all of us do. And if everybody buying cars nowadays were new modelers, then I could see maybe more of them. They don't have this, haven't developed the skills, don't have all the tools and infrastructure to build the kits, so it's easy to buy it. But at least in our club, the old guys, all of us, are buying just as many kits or just as many cars as new modelers. And many of us, you know, if I could find the car I'm looking for as an unbuilt kit, I'd buy it like that. It's just I can't find what I want because nobody makes it unbuilt anymore. So you end up having to buy a built one if that's what you want.
I think it's all,
Yeah, I
I think
think
it's,
that's also manufacturer driven
Yeah,
because it's probably easier for them to put it all together, charge a little more, and bingo, when they sell it, you got a car that runs.
yeah. Like
And
Karen was
I
saying,
think-
they have the machinery to do all that pinpoint gluing, and I think
Sure they
that's
do,
fascinating,
yeah.
and all of that kind of stuff, including that type of printing that's going to replace pad printing, probably will become more common. I come from a printing background, and the way that those printing heads have developed is incredible. But I feel maybe there's not enough cry for unbuilt kits.
I think you have to look at it in a couple of dimensions. I mean, the first is always believe that there are four kinds of modelers, right? There are builders, collectors, runners, and operators. And so, you know, the only and if you assume there's a percentage of everybody in those, the category that's interested in building a kit car is going to be a builder. The other three categories, to a great extent, are going to be very comfortable with a ready-to-run car. And then I think there's something interesting. You know, the comment that Brian made was, I'm doing this to learn new skills. And I think there's a difference between learning and having, right?
Mhm.
It's the difference between building a hot rod in your garage and buying a Z06 Corvette. Having versus build, I want to have it. I don't, and I think there's, and then I think the final thing is, if your goal is to build a railroad, getting the cars pre-built may be a way of managing your commitment of time, because there are a lot of things you can't buy pre-built in a railroad, right? If you think about it, if I'm building a railroad in a basement in a 30 by 20 foot room, you think about all the things I've got to do. What are the things I can cheaply trade off money for labor? And cars is actually probably one of the cheapest quality trade-offs, right? The difference between that, you know, if you can produce a kit for $30 and the built car for $50, that $20 in the middle to get anywhere close to where that would be would take you probably 3 or 4 hours for that $20, where you could be spending that 3 or 4 hours building scenery or laying track or ... So I think there's, for a lot of modelers, even ones that are, you know, could build it, it becomes a decision trade-off.
And I
I
think
think
the other
you're
point,
absolutely right. Yeah.
and to that point, Phil, it's, you know, a car is not something you need. Yes, you need cars on your layout, but I mean, if you bought one a month over some period of time, you're going to have a lot enough cars. Whereas, you know, you got to spend time on even now. I mean, modular bench work you can buy for the guys who are not so inclined that, you know, they don't know which end of a hammer and a saw. And I've seen that lots. So you can buy like pre-bench work. You can buy. So all of this contributes to where we are. But I mean, I remember Jason Sharon at Rapido once saying about why they don't have like dummy locomotives anymore. He says, because the difference in having a powered locomotive and a dummy unit is like $3. And he says, so why would you pay, you know, $150, and I'm just picking a number because it's more than that, but say $150 for a locomotive when you can get a one that works for $153. You know, that makes no sense. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the people who are trying to populate railroads, like, to build a car is one thing. To build 20 of that car is something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
So
don't wanna be doing
it goes back to that economy choice type thing of time and everything. My time is valuable now because I don't have a lot of it. And I think that's probably true for most people. So yeah, I try different things to expose myself to develop skills so that I can do other things. But you know, like for me to sit there and go, yeah, I want to build 20 cars. No, I don't want to do that, but I do want to build some cars just so that I have those abilities and what I might be able to do with those skill set. You know, structures and scenery, that's my number one thing. But quite truthfully, as I get delve more back into the hobby and so forth, like operations is a big thing. Learning the electrical is a big thing. The, you know, like the computer aspect of a lot of how it's infiltrating the hobby is a big thing. But I don't have time to spend on every one of those things. So, you know, like, yeah, I need 10 cars. I might build one, but I might buy 9.
Yeah, I can see that point of view. And I got to admit, back in the 90s, when I was building my layout, if I had the option of buying 65 or so 55-ton hoppers instead of building all of those Stewart hoppers that I did, I don't know which way I'd go. I look back in each one of those hoppers that I have downstairs. Each one's a little different, and a lot of that is because I'd decal them differently and I'd weather them differently. And I don't think I'd have the same attachment if I had just bought 65 pre-made hoppers. But I probably would have gotten a lot more done on other stuff if I hadn't built all those hoppers. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because
I think it's the
I'm
old
part
trade-off,
of
time and money.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
any
part of a
you
Fremo club, and what we see at shows is a bunch of guys who don't really develop their modules very much because they don't have a lot of time. So think about that for the guy who's doing the bigger home layout. And it's just like, if you don't have a lot of time and you're going to build 65 cars, how much are you actually getting done on the layout? So it's your choice. It's really comes down to is your choice what's important to you. And for me, the choice is, yeah, I do want to try all the different things, but I don't have time to spend huge amounts on any one aspect.
Well,
That's the
again,
choice I make.
yeah, and this goes right back to, I think, one of the things I said in Model Railroading 101, you know, it's like the old red green saying. I once took engineering, but I didn't take all of it. And model railroading is so much that you have to become first a designer planner to get some kind of track plan. And then you have to learn some skill set in woodworking. And then you have to learn track laying. And then you have to learn a little bit about, you know, wiring. So it is, I think that's what's one of the draw. Who's got the TV on, guys? Please mute. Sure.
Hackett, Mr. Hackett does.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like Mr. Hackett, and he's left the chair. So
I'll see if I can mute him.
I muted him.
Oh, thank you. So, and as Phil and everybody has more or less commented here, is we all enjoy certain aspects of the hobby, and that's what makes it great. You know, now when I was going for my MMR, I had to build 8 cars. Okay, well, it wasn't too bad because I was doing narrow gauge at the time, and I really enjoyed, and I knew nothing about cars. And I think Martin, I don't know if Martin's still on or not, but
yeah,
there's a guy who knows about cars. You know?
Oh, don't blame me for that. I didn't do it. It wasn't my fault.
So once I acquired the skill, okay, great. Now I can at least talk some sense on an A and a B end. At least I know which end is A, for the most part. And so then, okay, I've enjoyed that, but am I gonna spend all that time when I can buy in this case, the narrow gauge car from who's the new guys on the block. Anyway, I can buy one for $35, next. Whereas, hey, Paul,
Yes.
I'm glad you're wearing orange because it's hunting season up here.
That's red.
But it's true. I think everybody develops that interest and will spend the time on it. And as Brian said, I know a lot of the guys in his Fremo group because I was a member there. And boy, sometimes from module or from show to show, you hardly see anything done.
Yeah, show to show, I can understand it, but year to year, there should be some changes. Because sometimes the shows are only 2-3
I
weeks
can name
apart.
4 guys that I can see and no changes.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you can. You can probably name a whole lot more too.
But
I think a lot of times when people are building a module, they tend to get very lazy because they can't make any major changes. So they don't make any changes at all.
well, that is a good point too. And it's funny to that point, Paul. I read, that's an excellent point. There was a couple guys on one of the model railroading forums that said, I haven't done anything on my railroad because I go downstairs and I think what I have to do, it's too much. And I just walk away and I don't do anything. Well, I mean, I went in the layout room on Monday and went, oh, you know what? I got to take half the fascia down. I got to put in some other power routing and some stuff. I want to change a couple turnouts. It was heavy construction, but you know what? This morning, I put it all back together and it's all working and it's done. But the point is, you have to say to yourself, be disciplined and go, okay, I'm going to do it and get it done. Because otherwise, you're going to walk in the layout room and go, oh, that's a big job. Oh, look, here's a car that maybe needs a new coupler. I'll do that.
Yeah, well, you're right. It's more than just being disciplined. And my wife yells at me often about that because I have ADD, our son has ADD, and whenever there's a big job to be done, model railroad related or not, I tend to shy away from it. She says, well, that's because all you can see is this big, huge job. You can't see anything more than how huge that is. But if you just go in and do one little part today and then go do one little part tomorrow and do a little bit at a time, pretty soon the job's all done. And she's always right, but it's still always hard to look at it from that point of view.
Well, it is a matter of breaking everything down into manageable sizes, and
Quite obvious
that goes
your
for
wife
everything.
isn't like mine because you keep adding more and more, so it never gets done.
That was quite true. We had a fellow, Harold Midwood, who built brass engines. He had a layout besides, but it looks very daunting when you go down and you see work he's been doing and see this brass engine coming together. But he says, you look at it, a little project doing the pilot, and he was making some of his own pilots in some cases. And so that was a project, and you completed that, that's done. Then you go on to the next thing, was maybe forming the cab and doing all the piping inside the cab. And it looks like a lot when you look in, but you start it, and somebody, I think was on here, we had a seminar where you start at the bottom and work up just because the space you're working in. But
yeah, if you can focus on one task at a time, it breaks the big job down.
But we're also always focusing towards a big layout. I think ON 30 is really a breath of fresh air in a lot of ways. We have there's a group of guys down in Pennsylvania, and they're putting on shows down there. But when you follow them on the internet, they are just kit bashing and going crazy, doing all these little engines and they're doing scenery and everything, but modifying everything. They take a $20 plastic Bachmann car, and it's just not another car they bought to put on. They just do really crazy stuff with it. It's really interesting, and And there's a whole fraternity. And then a couple of the guys are now doing 3D printing and supplying these guys with more parts and boilers and everything else. So it's,
Hey, Larry, a common friend that we had, Stan,
Yeah.
he used to always say to me, you know, if I can go do one thing a day, I've done 365 things.
that's true.
66 in a leap year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Stan, his name was Stan Windrum, just a fascinating guy. And he was a fantastic modeler, but he always said, I go down to the layout even when I don't feel really like working on it, and I'll just do one thing. It might be a 15-minute job, but it's done. And I thought, what's that?
Well, he used to go down to his layout every day when I was working, when I knew him, and he'd phone me. He'd say, listen to this, and he'd have, it was PFM back in those days, but you know, he'd be down there enjoying his
Well, I used to go over quite often and on my
heard.
days off, and he would say, and he'd say, okay, we're doing this today and you're going to do that. So he says, I got a 2-for-1 day.
Yeah.
Hi, Marion.
Yeah. Oh, you heard it.
Did you bring us a coffee?
Did I what?
Coffee? No, actually,
us a
she's
coffee?
bringing out, she knows I'm going downstairs after this. So she brought me out more washing to take down.
Oh,
Seeing the wash machines are in my train room, that's, you know, of course, the top of the washing machine becomes a workbench for me. I've
Yeah.
got 4 workbenches, but I still end up working on top of the wash machine.
Well, you got to be careful not to drop a part in there.
Yeah.
Please hold while I go get my wife to say I am not the only one. As she says to me, if there's a flat surface on it down here in the basement, there's going to be train crap on it.
Yeah.
I was going to move down there tonight and work while watching the program, but I couldn't find a flat spot to put the computer. So I'm still up here in the dining room, but maybe by next week I'll have improved. And I want to build something for the weekend for a show and tell or a meet.
Oh,
Chop the goose all
Well,
apart.
I get in trouble because I start finding that the flat areas that are left are the pathways. And when I start blocking those, then she yells at me again.
I've done that, and that's why I can't get around. And I can't find things. I pulled
Hey,
everything out.
Mr. Thompson, are you like a deer in a headlight up there or what?
Yeah, that's quite a headlight he's got.
Sorry, I
Our
don't know
failure.
where the damn switch is. I'm tinkering away with something as I listen to you guys.
Of course you are.
So, yeah. What can I say?
All right. Who else have we?
I'm doing my 15-minute repair. or
Oh,
whatever.
Yeah, well, there you go. There's a guy that's gonna have 33, what did you say? 356 things
365
done.
things done.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Rivard, what are you up to? Okay,
Not
thanks for
anymore,
coming
man.
out.
Oh, have you,
Hey,
have you sprayed all that paint yet?
No, no, I have not.
I see that you're going to be doing some presentations for Division 12.
I am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that shows that I actually read things. like the MCR business meeting, you know.
Yeah. They those guys are a good group of guys, Division 12. I've known some of those guys a long time, like Mr. Bradley, I've known a long time. So, but yeah.
Where is the Division 12?
That would be like the Ohio area.
That's part of Erie, PA, right?
Erie, well, yeah, Erie, and even parts of Cleveland. And I'd have to look at the map again.
So Clark, that would be like going to Florida for you.
I'm just doing it by Zoom. I'm not going anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm just doing it by Zoom. Actually, we did the same, did the same project in the Western New York division. And I think there was about 15 or 20 guys who built that model there. So yeah, it should be fun. And
good.
who else? Oh, look, Al is on. Al, how are you feeling?
Good.
Oh, that's good. Okay, thanks for coming out.
How about you?
Better now. Better now.
Still waiting. I'm still waiting to get ablated.
Okay.
I'm on a waiting.
You're on a little bit of a list, are you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see.
Clark,
Yes.
I want to ask you a question.
Go ahead, caller.
What happened to all those rubber rock molds you got quite a while back?
I still have them.
Uh-huh. And I know somebody who wants them.
Oh, who would that be?
Gee, I'll never tell.
Oh, okay.
You know who it is. Named Gary.
Ah.
He told me to ask you.
Huh?
He told me to ask you.
Okay. Well, actually, I'm actually starting on another rockwork project on my layout. So he's not going to get them for a while.
Oh, I'll tell him that too.
Yeah. Yeah. But,
What happened
yeah.
to your clubhouse?
Oh, well, that was almost 2.5 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
We had 13 feet of snow and the roof collapsed on the auditorium.
Oh man.
And our layout, our club room was basically on the sort of wall of the auditorium, and so they condemned the whole building, and that was in February. We got in there in April, and we removed we could remove everything. We had to go in, only 2 guys were allowed in. We had the fire department with us for 4 hours, etc. And we removed everything and got everything out, and the club has just been basically meeting. Well, we really just started up. We don't meet during the summer, obviously, because we're fishing. Well, some of us are fishing. But in the winter, we've already had 3 meetings, with COVID protocols. So
You gonna rebuild, Clark?
what's that?
Are you gonna rebuild?
Well, we're gonna have to find a building, because they demolished the whole building, and they keep talking about they got $9 million in insurance money for it, but the new building they want to build is about 27 million, of course. So
Did you guys get anything out of it?
Out of
the insurance?
No, it went strictly to the city.
So you didn't have your own insurance policy then?
Not for, we had for liability, we didn't have, but we got everything out, so it didn't matter.
Oh,
okay. We had no damage to anything really. So
wow. So how long did it sit after the roof fell in?
From February to April.
Wow.
But all the equipment, we had almost no water damage. We had a little, and because all the power was all turned off, no heat, no nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, but we had no problem. Like I brought home the NCE stuff, and I talked to the guys at NCE, and they said just open it up, let it dry out, make sure it's dry, and plug it in. And I did, and I've never had a problem.
Good.
So
oh, that's nice. Yeah.
And all the rolling stock, all the buildings, everything was taken off. But the layout itself, basically, we had track. We didn't really have any scenery at that point. We had all the track done, all the wiring done. And so we decided that nobody could really store it. So it all went to the dump.
Oh, that's too bad.
But all the other stuff, we decided to sell it off to the club members, which we did. And what was in the kitty, we gave back to the club members. We just divided it by the membership. And
That's
then
good.
we're kind of in limbo, as I said. We have a board meeting or a board room where we can meet, and most of the guys here have layouts, so guys have been helping each other with their own layouts, or I've had 2 operating sessions, I guess, in the last 6 weeks or so.
Good.
So
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be a big layout. It can be just like that, helping other people out and doing operating
Well,
sessions.
the only problem here is a lot of the guys really want to build a bigger layout so they can run big passenger stuff and that, because they just don't have the space at home. So that's where a club comes into. And to be honest, most of the guys are retired, and that's their social outlet for 3 times a week.
As a club, we find that you get a lot of help from each other when you go from home to home.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Larry's the Maple Leaf Mafia and the Narrow Gauge group. They used to have work nights. I don't know if they're still doing it, but even at my home, I had 2 or 3 guys come over and would help me with a couple things when I was building my big layout in SN3. So yeah, it's a good group of people. And you do learn a lot. Somebody will have a technique, just what we were talking about, with Brian and that people have skill sets that you don't necessarily have. So now they can show you.
That's right.
I mean, I see a lot of stuff on, this is my own personal comment, and it's not meant for anybody directly, but some of these guys on YouTube and that, they're just brutal. And I'm thinking, why are they trying to teach somebody when it's just terrible? It's, oh my God. But anyway, that's,
some of them are pretty good. You learn.
There's some that are fantastic, but then there's some that, like, oh my God. I saw one guy, he said he uses one of those little propane torches for melting styrofoam so it can shape it into, and I'm like, what? Why would you tell anybody to do that?
You're asking yourself for a lawsuit.
Oh man. Like I could not believe that he put that out there.
Well, some people don't think.
I guess that's good if you want to imitate an accident.
Yeah.
Where the cars are all bent up.
Yeah. Your insurance
But do it outside, eh?
As you watch your mountain go.
You don't want to breathe those vapors.
Just can't underestimate the stupidity of the human race.
And there was a couple of things like that, and then guys talking about how they put together models, and I'm like, oh my God, like, geez. And I know I shouldn't be critical, but if you're gonna teach somebody, know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there's this one YouTuber that I've only watched a couple of his videos and all that, because at first I thought he was doing, really stupid things and all that. But the thing is, it's Electro Boom, which is a electronics YouTube channel. But the thing is, I think he does it more as satire. Once you realize that, it's like, oh no, don't do that. And then it's like he does it, and then it's like, how the hell did he survive that? And then you have to realize that, oh, it's satire. It was set up that way. Okay. So.
All right. Well, what we're going to do, we're going to stop the live stream now. It's almost 10 o'clock, and we're going to continue on with the after show. I always say to people, hang in there and become part of the Zoom rather than just watching on YouTube. We do have a lot of fun here on the after show. We talk about all kinds of things. So thanks for joining us on Zoom, and stay tuned. We'll stop the live streaming and go from there.
Take care, buddy.
You're gonna go? Okay, thanks.
I
Rick.
am, yep.
Okay.
Take care, Clark. Thanks for
All right,
hosting
thanks,
again.
buddy.
Okay, bye.
Mr. Hackett, you can stop if you're still around.
He's wandered off.
Oh,
He
again.
wandered off.
I think,
Well, you're the host, so if you
I already
take away, if you take away his hosting, if you make him take away his co-hosting privileges, that'll automatically cut off his recording.
Sure. Stop video.
No. You want to go click on Earl Hackett,
Yeah.
and then hit the thing that says ...
Yes,
And
and
then
it says I can stop video.
You can stop video.
Oh,
you should be
remove
able-
co-host permission.
That's the one.
That's
Okay.
it.
All right, thank you all. And I believe if you want to check Zoom or YouTube, we should be off.
Yeah, YouTube is off.
Yep. Okay.
And Phil says it's recording.
Yeah.
He may have to record it. I don't know. Anyway, let's see. Who else have we got on here tonight that we haven't talked to? Or is everybody left now? Dave, Bud, Pat, Martin, Goggles Paisan there.
Hey, don't knock it. Somebody gave me these stupid things and they actually work. Whoop, they're still on.
Yeah. Oh, Rich Randall, what's going on? What's happening? What's
Okay, I need water.
I've been working on that waffle side boxcar,
Oh, have you?
but I'm way behind.
Oh, that's okay. That's why we record them.
Hey,
Yeah,
tell
so-
them the good news about getting the new parts.
Oh, yeah, I got them within a couple of days. John Vogel was very responsive. So I did get the ends put on and I got the sides built. But I didn't do all that underbody work yet from last week.
Give you something to do when the snow flies.
Dave, did you have anything presented tonight? Because I couldn't get here until just about a half hour ago.
Yeah, I did a lot of the finishing up the door tracks, the end ladders, end platforms, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Those
good.
kind of-
Well, I am
kind of
going
simple
to
finish
try
up.
to find the recording.
They're on YouTube.
Yeah.
You just search under New Tracks Modeling, and you'll find one of the sites will have that gray circle with an NT, and you touch that, and it'll take you to all the YouTube videos, usually lined up from first to last kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
so you
Yeah,
should be able
good.
to find them, and
Well,
you can search by
thanks,
date
Dave.
also. So.
You sure did a good job on that model.
Well, I sure appreciate hearing that. You know, you never know how people are following along or not, if I'm explaining myself well enough, but I'm glad to hear that.
I don't know if you caught it last week, but people were happy to see that underbody detail that you essentially gave a lesson in the AB brake system. So that was pretty
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yep, those cars would have the newer brake system. So like I was explaining and I think it was a deal for the Carmen. They could look at the bleed rod and know if the car was AB brakes or K brakes or ABD or ABDW, which is the more modern braking system. And they switched from the L-shaped handle to the pigtail. And like I say, the Carmen could glance at the car and they'd know they'd have to have newer air portions to repair that car.
Okay. So it's more modern than AB.
Yes. Yep. They would have probably had ABD on that car.
EB.
Might have come from the factory in the late 60s with AB brakes, but then they would upgrade as they go along.
Very good.
That
And
was
then-
my car. back 30 years ago, I started on the railroad as a carman, so that was my.
Oh, all right.
So I did that for a while, and then eventually worked my way up into transportation, became an engineer for the railroad, and retired last August. So,
Oh,
now I can build models full time.
that's right. Great.
No, that was very informative there last week with all the brake rigging and that. And like you say, those bleed levers, you know, I never saw those on a model before.
Oh yeah, 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 and you know, like they were talking previously, you know, in O scale, it's almost not a you know, it doesn't have to be there, but it's one of those glaring items that once you put them on a car, then you start putting them on all your cars.
Yeah,
And kind of the same thing with the retainer. Some very few people put the retainers on. You know,
Right.
a lot of the kits will come with a retainer on the old high brake stand, but on the new modern stuff, they don't bother to put the retainer on there, which is usually located on the side of the car by the control valve in that area.
So you said all venting goes through the retainer.
That is correct. Everything that comes out of that brake cylinder, when it goes to release, all the air passes through that retainer, and then you can adjust the retainer to either high pressure, low pressure, direct exhaust. And there's also a retaining feature where you move the handle up and it'll hold the air on the car for like 90 seconds and then start to release, which is, you know, so many railroads don't recommend using the old retainers anymore. But if you went an emergency on like a 2.5% grade, you could go by and put on all the high pressure settings on the retainers and then have the engineer release the brakes. And then you could go along and release them one at a time. And when he could move the train, you just left the brakes set on the head end while the rear end was released, and you could take it down the hill. But in today's world, they rather just have you tie 100% handbrakes and pump it up and then take the handbrakes, you know, put a set into them, release the handbrakes, and then try and move them down the hill again. I don't understand why the retainer is such a neat idea, but I don't know. It's probably because the railroads don't teach anybody how this stuff works, and they just don't want you playing with it anymore.
I have a couple of guys on a Zoom call that I do, and these guys are professional railroaders like you or Dave. And
yeah,
one's active. He's Montana Rail Links, and another guy is retired out of the Central of Georgia /NS.
Oh, okay.
And oh my God, when they talk about it's hilarious. It's just like nobody knows anything anymore.
Oh, that is so, especially air brakes. I was always amazed at some of the new guys I was training. I'd ask them simple air brake questions. They didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
I said, well, what are they teaching you in that school? How
Right.
to put your feet up and take a nap? Because they were good at that.
Well, as one of the guys, he goes, when they say, stop now, it's usually too late.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had one student. We were starting down our big hill here in Duluth Superior, and I told him to take a minimum, and he looked at me and said, "Minimum what?" I was like, "You know what? Get out of the seat. You're done."
There was a great picture of a tank car buried in dirt, like it came off the end of the track and the one end was buried in dirt. And the guy in the caption says, "Bring it back 30. Oops, I meant 3. My bad."
Yeah.
Oh well.
But, I remember seeing a air brake construction car where apparently it had the equivalent of a what was it now? I want to say a 40-car freight train and the same amount of piping of I want to say a 15-passenger car. It was all in one. It was all built into this one passenger car, and I remember seeing they had they had a picture of the floorboards taken up showing all the piping in this instruction car. Right? I want to say maybe in the 20s or 30s.
Neat.
You don't see anything like that anymore.
All Westinghouse air brake, and I don't know if they still have the video up, but they had in their shop, they had a setup of 100 brake cylinders and air portions, the whole bit, mimicking a train. And then what they would do is hook a switch to the levers that would turn on a light. So they could literally take minimum reduction on the brake valve, and you could watch the lights come on, showing you how the brakes would set up on a train. And it was absolutely fascinating, because then they'd kick it off. And of course, as the lights went out, that was the brakes releasing on the cars. Well, you could see how the braking action would happen throughout a 100-car train, doing different sets and releases.
Yeah, I think this rail car was sort of set up that way, except that I don't think it had any lights on it and all that, but it just had all the. It was very interesting, because it said that, you know, when they put the floorboards down and all, they put the floorboards down, they would then put in the instruction chairs. So you're having so you're doing the, you know, the instructors telling, hey, this is what's going on, that, and et cetera, and all that. And they're like, they're, you know, they have one person's on one side of you, and then you got an actual brake cylinder sitting next to you. I would assume they would have had that thing hooked up. I'm assuming that they had it hooked up to a locomotive, but it probably made more sense if they had it hooked up to shop air.
Yeah, they might have had a compressor available too. Anything to supply, you know, pressurized air to make the system work.
Yeah.
Yeah, air brakes are kind of fascinating, you know, and when you're running these trains, it's, you know, in the Wisconsin Central days, they really did a bang up job teaching air brakes. Nowadays, they kind of just touch on them a little bit. They really don't teach you a lot of the little tricks of the trade of, you know, what are the brakes doing, you know. And we used to have to, when we went through school, they would tell you quizzes like, okay, we're going to reduce the brake pipe by 8 pounds. What is the pressure in the brake cylinder? And you'd have to calculate out, okay, you reduce the brake pipe by 8 pounds. Well, 8 pounds comes out of the reservoir, but when it goes into the brake cylinder, it multiplies by 2.5 times because of the surface area of the brake cylinder. So literally, once you learn the trick, it was 8, you know, times 2.5, and you'd come up with how much pressure was being exerted on the brake system. So always on your minimum reduction, you know, you had 18 pounds of air going into that cylinder, or 18 pounds of force. So, and, you know, and just, it was kind of amazing. And then of course you had to study where equalization was at. And that's when your brake cylinder and your reservoir match air pressures, which happened at 69 pounds. You'd have 69 pounds in the cylinder, 69 pounds in the reservoir, and you had no more brakes. I don't care how much more you reduced your brake pressure in your pipe. That was all you were getting. Emergency would give you a little more when you popped it in emergency. But just all kinds of stuff like that. We had to go through and memorize this stuff. And the test was incredible on air brakes. But in today's world, we look like geniuses on air brakes because nobody teaches it much on air brakes anymore, which are kind of important. Stopping a train is a lot harder than starting a train. Anybody can start a train. It's stopping it that's the trick.
That's interesting. That's fascinating, Dave. I mean, I hear these other professional guys or retired professional guys talk about all this stuff, and when you are saying that, that's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, pounds, yeah, and you know, and it's interesting. And when I was a paramedic, one of the things that we had to always calculate was oxygen use in certain bottles. If you're using, you know, 8 liters of oxygen, how long is this bottle going to last you? Because if you're in an apartment building, you may exhaust all your air before you get to the bottom, right?
Sure.
And today you ask that to a guy and goes, I don't know, I'll get the fire department to get me another bottle. Oh boy. All right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but all right, guys, it's 8:15 or sorry, 8:15, 10:15 almost. So I think we'll call it a night. Earl, you can probably kill it if it isn't already, and we'll say goodnight to everybody, and
right.
we'll see you all next week.
Good night, gentlemen.
And for all you guys in the States, I hope you had a good American Thanksgiving. Buffalo
Did
Bills
indeed,
won.
thank you.
Buffalo Bills won. That's all that really mattered.
Oh, Lord.
I think you better leave while you're ahead.
You know, that's the only thing, you know, like on the TV, you see all the and I'm like, oh, I'm dying for a turkey sandwich, but I have to wait till Christmas. All right, you guys,
All right.
again, good night, and
Good night.
we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see you then.
Hi, guys.
Right on.
Night.
Yeah.